This time I have a trash cam. Did I call it a trash cam? Tascam DA88. This is a 8-track, multi-track tape deck, digital tape deck used in recording studios. You can link a couple of them together and have 16 tracks of digital recording. I actually have 2 of them here. This is the first of 2, and it's not working. So let's see what's wrong with this one. Got a Tascam DA88 digital audio tape deck in from a client. He says that he bought a couple of them. In fact, I've got both of them in here, but the other one he brought to me in pieces. So we'll see how it goes with this one first. Apparently, he went to load a tape, and that's it. It loaded and jammed. So, I haven't worked on one of these before. We'll take a shot at it and see what we can figure out what's going wrong with it. Appears to be mechanical problems. These are, of course, an 8-track digital tape deck. A lot of studios used these back in the days that actually have 2 of them together, and that would give you 16 tracks because you could sync up 2 of them together and have tracks 1 to 8 on one tape and then tracks 9 to 16 on a second tape. They used a high 8 tape to record. So before I even try to turn this thing on, I'm going to pull the top off it so we can give it a quick inspection. And to answer the burning question, what are these units worth? Well, I found one a while back that somebody was trying to sell broken, and they're asking $300 for it, and I laughed. I said, $300 for a broken machine? You're on drugs. The guy that brought me these 2, he got 2 of them, okay? All he had to pay was the shipping. He got 2 DA88s and the interface that connects them. So you got the digital input and output. And all he had to pay was shipping. He said the shipping cost him only a couple $100. That's to ship 2 of them and the interface. These machines here have really very, very little value. And if anybody's buying one of these things and they're paying outrageous sums for them, well, you've heard the saying, there's a sucker born every minute. Because there are lots of these out there that are just being given away. Like the 2 DA40s that I've got, I think I paid $20 a piece for them. There's lots of them out there, and there's a fire sale on them because everyone's getting rid of tape-based recording equipment, and there's really little value in this type of machine. So the screws out, here it comes off the top. It's very modular. We look at the tape transport. It looks exactly like a high 8 machine because, well, essentially it is just like a high 8 deck. That battery in there has definitely seen better days. It is leaking. It's got to go. First thing we'll do, we'll just clean this up. The unit itself probably will operate without a battery. This is typically for storing, like maintaining time and so forth. So it should operate without a battery. But there is a tape that is stuck in the machine itself. You can see a tape that looks to be half threaded. I'm going to see if I can pop the top off here just so we can inspect it. Looks like it would be 4 screws that hold this top in place. My damn car went in the shop today because it started making a ticking sound. And of course it's not covered under warranty, because the warranty that's left is just for the hybrid parts, which is an 8-year warranty, and of course the powertrain. And the problem, they say, is a valve in the cooling system is what they've said it is. So I'm going to be looking at a big bill that I can't afford, like everything else, right? Okay, this should lift out of here, and then this piece lifts off, I think. If not, this plastic top should lift off here. I just want to see what's going on with the tape. And there is the tape. This should lift out. That looks just like an 8mm deck, because it is an 8mm deck. That's exactly what it is. It's got some contacts on top here, rotary contacts. So instead of using a rotary transformer, it looks like it's got wires going directly to it. These are probably for dedicated playback heads, more than likely. so you can monitor after recording. Alright, let's just power this thing up and just see what it does, whether it turns on and what it's trying to do. Aha! The tape did not. That's what's happening. It's not retracting the tape. You saw that, right? When it unloaded, the tape is not retracting. So we have a take-up problem. And could be a belt, could be an idler. Hard to say. But at this point, we have an issue. So let's pull the deck. I call the Pro machines. Just a couple screws and the transport will come out. Four screws and the transport itself should lift out. Get the wires free from anything they get hung up on. Should be able to lift this transport right out of here. Remove the power cord and the switch, like the power connector here and the switch, and now there should be enough room, I think, to lift this entire unit out. Just like that. I can unplug the unit, see why it's sticking, why the reel is not turning to take up the tape. Got a couple connectors on the side here, a couple plugs. Gummed up big time. Look at all the dust in here. I have to blow all the dust out of this thing. It's full of dust. There are 5 plugs that undo, and then you can remove the entire transport. So we'll just put this aside for now so I can see why the transport's not working. Check this out. The entire bottom is copper. Wow. You can tell these were expensive machines, like very high end, and there's a lot of history, a lot of recording history that goes back to these units. Back in the 80s and 90s and into the early 2000s, until hard drive based recordings really took over, these decks were used for a very high percentage of recordings. It's just amazing what was done with these, but there was just so much done on DAT, both DA88 type and also ADAT, which the ADAT used a VHS, a Super VHS cassette. So we had our two competing formats in the recording industry. We had the Tascam based, which used the Sony 8mm standard, and then there was the VHS crowd, which had the ADAT, which used the Super VHS based recording. Even then in recording, and then of course digital audio tape, which used the 4mm tape, and it was just basically 2 channels. But what they called RDAT, which was the consumerized version, just 2 channel. This is 8 channel or 8 track. Yeah, it was as I say, there was a lot of recordings were made on equipment like this. If we look down at the head drum here, this is a 4-head machine. So 2 of the heads are going through these tip ring or ring sleeves here, and the other 4 will be going, or the other 2 will be going through a rotary transformer. You can see the 4 heads. See, there's one there. There's the second one, the third one, and the 4th one. So I just manually ejected the tape by applying about 3 volts across the loading motor here, which raised the tape. Yes, the tape was still sticking out from the end of the cassette because it wouldn't rewind back in. The tape was already damaged, so it didn't damage it anymore by doing that because it had already been crunched. But first things first, though, I'm going to blow all the dust up. It's going to go get the air compressor, take this outside, and we'll blow all the dust bunnies out of here because this thing is just full, as you can see here. Look at all the dirt in here. Doesn't look like this thing's been used in 20 years. So let's clean this up first, and then we'll proceed. So first things first, I need to get to the capstan motor, is because I'm sure that that is what's going to drive the reels through a belt, or is it a separate motor? I'm just looking to see whether this has got its own dedicated motor or whether it's driven by a belt. Usually they are driven by a belt, but having not opened one of these before, I'm not 100% sure. Might be a dedicated motor actually. That might be its own separate motor on this one. Could be the mechanism's gummed up. That's probably what it is this pendulum gear down here is probably not, you know, this, I think this is probably supposed to flip back and forth. When it turns one way and when it turns the other way, it goes the other way to drive power. And this is really stiff, so I have a feeling this is where our fault is this pendulum gear here is stuck and it's not providing any power. Oh, now it's moving a bit. I think that's where our fault is on this. I think our fault is right down underneath here. This pendulum gear that swings back and forth is stuck. So I gotta figure out where that is. I think if I take off the cassette basket, there's a couple screws here. If I lift off the cassette basket, I can probably get to the pendulum gear. Looks like this, just some screws on the side here. That should lift off this part of the transport. Now this should lift off, which it does. Unclip the wires. There we go. That wire's free, and on this side it should be able to unplug from down here. There. I think that's all that has to come undone. Oh, there's one more plug. This other plug here. These would be for detection switches and so forth. Okay, that lifts off. Now I can get to this is where I think our problem is, right down here. Because this little pendulum gear, as you can see, is not moving. So looks like there'd be two screws that hold this in place. Started out as a miserable day today, and now it's turned out nicer. So I think I will take my Harley out for a ride at some point today. Since I don't have a car, because my car went in the shop, needs an expensive repair that's not under warranty. A water pump of some type has apparently, or a valve is what they say. Okay, here's the pendulum gear. You see, I think when that turns, these are supposed to rock back and forth, and they're not. So something is there now. See, they're doing a bit now. I gotta take this off and just lubricate it. I think we probably just gummed up this. The shaft that this sits on is probably gummed up. So we'll pop off this cut washer. Now remember, I've never worked on one of these before. This is the first time I've been into one of these DA88s, but I do have a very extensive background in VCRs, so these might as well be a VCR because they operate exactly the same way. Lift off this gear without breaking it. Okay, get that out of the way. I think it's probably this little pivot down here is the one that is problematic. That's why I always tell everybody who's working on anything like this, anything tedious, film it, record it, take photos, but do something so that you have a record so that you know what goes where if you have to, if anything falls off. Almost got it out. There we go. Okay, so here's our fault. The grease on here has basically turned to glue. So we got to clear that out and re-lube it. And fingers crossed that's going to work. And no, I did not lose a piece. It fell off onto the bench. But that's one thing I keep in mind when you're working on these things, is things can go springs. They can go flying on you if you're not careful. All right. Get the pendulum gear in place. I'm just going to put a drop of oil onto this shaft. Literally just a drop. That's all it needs. Too much oil is worse than not enough. Ever heard of that one? I sure have. I'll tell you a story. When I was, I guess 16 or so, somewhere there, and one of my dumb friends was changing the oil on his car. I guess he'd never heard the expression "too much oil is worse than not enough." Anyway, he massively overfilled his crankcase with oil. You know, I mean, after all, what's just oil? What's it going to do, right? What kind of damage is that going to cause? Well, what happened was he had so much oil in the crankcase that it foamed up, and blew all the seals out on the engine. Back pressure. Blew out all the seals. Oh, it was a mess. How he didn't blow the engine up, I don't know, but it did require that he take it all apart, and he had to. Yeah, it was a mess. He took it into a shop at that point, and he'd put something like I think 6 liters of oil in it. The guy wasn't too smart. It was a big block, and it was like a 6.2 liter engine. For some reason, this guy thought that a 6 liter engine needed like 6 or 7 liters of oil. Anyway, it was a mess. Too much oil is worse than not enough. Remember that one. Okay, so next is this piece goes on top here. Actually, I guess I gotta put these other gears back in first. Put these other little wheels in place. Of course, they're talking right now on the radio. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but we have that deep sea sub that took, I guess, tourists down to visit the Titanic at the bottom of the ocean, and time is running out if they can't find them, because they're locked in this submersible. There's no way out, even if they surface. Apparently, even if they get to the surface, there's no way for them to get out on their own because they're bolted in from the outside. So yeah, they're talking about that on the radio. It's tragic for those people that are down there if they're still around. Okay, we'll put that back in place, and then I got the cut washer to go on top here. And now, when I turn the motor, it should turn the pendulum gear and turn the spools, the take up and supply spools, like they're supposed to. So now I just got to make sure these are in place and sitting in their proper track, and then put that plate back on. That goes down like that, and that goes down like that. This is supposed to be up on the other side of this little wheel. This goes down below it like that. Like that. That's better. All right. Damn electric cars going up and down the street sound like a spaceship. My neighborhood is full of them. Literally. For those that say the electric revolution isn't here, it is. There are so many electric cars in my neighborhood. A lot of Teslas. But not just Tesla, but there's a lot of them. Alright. Turns that spool, and that one turns the other spool that goes the other way. There we go. Alright, now I can tighten these screws down, and we'll put the cassette compartment back on. And fingers crossed this machine's going to work and there's no other faults. And then I got another one to work on, but that will be a separate video because I don't know what fault it's got. It might have the same fault as this one. It might be a totally different fault. But whatever it is, it's going to have its own video because that's what we do. And hopefully I get enough views to make it worth my while. Although I think a deck like this, I could probably make a little bit of money on the repair because it's a professional piece of equipment. Let's put the other three in first that are easy to get to. Do the hard one last. Okay, that's got that in place. We've got a couple plugs to go in here for the transport. Now I can plug this in and give it a test. Okay, I got 3 plugs back in. Put the deck back in. Just goes in like that. Sort of. I'll try loading a regular videotape on this first, not the one and only master tape that the fellow that owns this was tasked with transferring. This is owned by a production company that I maintain his equipment for him. He does a lot of film transfers and stuff. My competition, but not my competition, because he does the real high-end stuff with his high-end 5K scanner, and I do his maintenance for him. Put the power switch back in. Just gotta make sure it's in the right way. It only goes in one way, otherwise it won't work. There we go. All right, power this thing up. Let's see what it does. All right, fans are coming on. That's a good sign. Let me grab a 8mm videotape that I've got kicking around here. This one says test on it. That's good enough. Oh, you know what? It's probably not a high 8 tape. That's why. It probably requires it to detect that it's a high 8 tape. Let me try finding a high 8 tape. That's better. Okay. I'll just eject it. There we go. Now it's not eating. Alright, now I can put his tape in with confidence that it's not going to chew it up anymore, and it already is, because that had video on it, so obviously we're not going to be able to hear anything off that. But I should hear something off this if I plug it into my amplifier. I got time showing on here, 21 seconds, 8 frames. So I should have something on this tape. I just don't know how to work this machine. Whether I have to plug that other adapter in or whether I can just plug in. I see it's got a bunch of outputs on the back here. I think those are for enabling record. So let me just first of all, let's just see if there's anything showing up on the tape. I got 8 outputs on the back. I can plug in 2 of them at a time. So let's just try that. Alright, I got it plugged into track 1 and 2. I don't know what's going on here. Whether I'm going to hear anything at all, or what's going to happen. To say I don't know how it works. Whether there's anything recorded, or do I have to have the other unit plugged in? I may have to have the interface plugged in. Oh, I see something going on here. I see something lit up here and here, so maybe there's something on here. There's something on this tape. Ah ha ha! There is 8 tracks. So I got the organ on there. Let's just listen to what's on the other tracks. Is that all that was on there? Was some strumming of guitars? Seems to be that's all that was on this track so far. Let's just rewind it back. Well, there's something on all the tracks, but this is tracks 3 and 4 we're listening to now. I could have a lot of fun with one of these machines, I tell you. I mean, I have a 3344 track analog machine, which I could have fun with if I really wanted to pick up my guitar and play around with it, but I could have a lot of fun with an 8-track machine, I tell you that. Let's listen to the next 2 tracks. What's on tracks 5 and 6. That's track 5. Need a mixer. Need a mixer to hear this properly. And there's another tape which has got another 8 tracks, because they had 2 tapes. I guess they were in sync. But that's what's on this one so far. There's probably other stuff on this tape, but we'll rewind this back again. We'll play the last 2 tracks and see what's on that as I blow my speakers. Alright, here's the drums. So there's only drums on one, bass drum on one anyway. I'd love to have one of these machines. I could have so much fun with just one. I only need one. I only need one machine. I could have a lot of fun with a machine like this. I gotta get out my Strat and my Fender bass and my keyboards. I could have a lot of fun with this. Yes, I played for a few years when I was younger. I don't know if there's anything else on this tape or whether that's it. Let's see if there's anything else on this tape worth listening to. Bass. Okay, well, I think it's safe to say that this machine is now working, and I've saved another one from the scrap heap. This is version 4. I say I'd love to have one of these things. Man, a lot of fun. A lot of fun could be had with a Tascam DA88, but not at what prices people are asking for on the selling sites and stuff. What the fellow that owns us, what he paid for it, that's about the right price. Shipping, cost of shipping, that's what I would pay for one. Because there's lots of these out there, you just gotta find them. Anyway, let me throw this back together and we'll do a final test on it. So power off. Put this cover back on. Actually I gotta put this cover on too. I gotta put the cover over here. This covers up the head, just to shield it. And then there's this plastic cover that goes on top of this. I guess to keep the dust bunnies out. I don't know if it did a very good job of it or not because there was a lot of dust in here, but and then there's this metal plate that goes on top. When I was taking my car in this morning to the shop, I had to laugh because I can use the HOV lane because I drive an electric vehicle. But the HOV lane, there has to be at least 2 people in the vehicle, and there's a lot of people in the morning that are trying to cheat to get ahead of everybody else. Nobody likes a cheater, especially the police. I'm driving along, and I see this cop walk out and walked right onto the lane of traffic and pulled over a pickup truck that obviously had been in the HOV lane, and then when he saw that the police were ahead, he cut over very quickly. But he didn't cut over quick enough because I had spotted him already. So there was about, I'm going to say 5. There was 4 cop cars there, all unmarked. But I think they had about 4 or 5 people pulled over. They were all getting tickets for being a HOV lane cheater. Love it. If you want to get in the HOV lane, there's two ways to do it. You can either have two people in the car, or you can spend the bucks and get yourself an electric car. Then you can drive in that lane all you want.
Or ride a motorcycle.
All right, this one's done. Just got to throw the top on it now. I will do one final test before I put the top on. Oh, might help if I plug in the power. So we're only listening to channels 4 and 5 right now. Looking at individual frames. You'll notice that it goes, or no, 100 frames got 3 seconds. So if you watch it, you'll watch it go to 32, and then every 3 seconds it only goes to, at least on our DAT, that's the way it works. Maybe there's 32 for every that time I went to 33. There you go. 32, 32, and then 33 frames. You see, that one had 33 frames. And this one only have 32 frames. Right, 32 frames. So it'll be 33. So it starts at 0. So it's 33, 33, 33, and then 34. Because you start from 0 to 32, that's 33 frames. 0 to 32, that's 33 frames. And then on the third one, it goes from 0 to 33. That was that one there. You see. Bottom of tape, DOT. Unload. There you go. Thanks for watching.